Trying to get your hands on a high-quality N95 mask? Well, the White House is finally making millions available for free. But the question is, what have the feds been doing with their stockpile of masks up until this point? Turns out, they've been auctioning them off.
Somebody will come in and bid on them. They'll buy them at a reduced rate, and then they'll circulate them. They'll put them on eBay, or they'll end up on, Amazon, or...
Meantime, if you've run into a problem requesting free COVID tests from the federal government, you're not the only one.
I filled out the form, I hit submit, and the message I got back said the test had already been ordered for my address.
And the Newburgh School Board recalls are still too close to call, with mail-in ballots still trickling in. But the turnout is incredibly high for such a hyper-local election.
Our little county has not had a recall in over 12 years, so it's not something that our voters are used to.
Here's the story.
Oof, serious show for a Wednesday, huh? You know what? Let's throw a little Betty White in there. I know we're all mourning Betty White, but this is so much fun to look back at. She was wonderful, wasn't she? Later on tonight, we're going to dive into the vault, because we love vault segments here, for a look back at Betty White's visit to KGW 30 years ago. I just learned that video existed today, and it is so fantastic to watch. I'm Maggie Vespa. Welcome to The Story. That segment actually stemmed from a viewer question, as do so many on this show. So send us your feedback. We take it really seriously. Email thestory@kgw.com. It's just down here. You can use the hashtag #TheStoryKGW on social media. Our team right now is watching for your questions and your comments as we speak. So let's get started. Up tonight's big story, you might have seen by now, the federal government isn't just giving out free COVID tests, it's also giving out free masks. And we know, like all of that, just 2 years into the pandemic. Like, slow down, guys, right? Well, today, the White House announced it is distributing 400 million, big difference, N95 masks to pharmacies and health centers across the country. These masks will be free for anyone who needs one, and the shipments are supposed to start going out this week. The thing is, the feds have had a stockpile of N95 masks for a while now, and as Kyla Boshi found out, they haven't been giving those masks away. Instead, they've been auctioning them off.
Tonight, hospitals under siege and understaffed.
Well, this week could prove to be one of the most challenging yet.
The numbers remain staggering tonight, stretching our patience and our capacity.
As Omicron sweeps across the country, masks are in demand, especially the good ones, N95 and KN95 respirators. So why is it that the federal government is trying to get rid of more than 1 million new unexpired masks by putting them up for government surplus auction? We found more than a dozen separate listings in the past month for masks and protective face coverings on the General Services Administration website, which auctions off surplus federal assets. It's not clear why the U.S. government is looking to unload the mask. Most are still in cardboard boxes, shrink-wrapped, and stored on pallets. All the masks up for bid on the GSA auction website appeared to come from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Like, for example, the Roseburg VA healthcare system. The federal facility in Southern Oregon offered 1,000 KN95 masks to the highest bidder, along with other items listed as unused medical supplies. We wanted to see them for ourselves, so KGW inspected the masks at a VA warehouse in Roseburg before the auction closed on January 14th. The white masks, wrapped in a large plastic bag and packed in an unmarked cardboard box, were brand new and stamped KN95. Some attached paperwork explained why they were being discarded, no longer used at station. The highest bid at auction was $460, although the reserve price, or lowest price accepted for the items, was not met. It's not clear if the masks will be listed again.
Couldn't the government put these to good use?
I think so.
Scott Amy is with the Project on Government Oversight, a Washington, D.C. based watchdog organization.
Why isn't the Veterans Affairs turning to other offices? If one office can't use them, I'm pretty sure that some others may. There may be some local government offices that could use those, federal, state, and government offices that can use those masks.
Another example, the Department of Veterans Affairs in Louisville, Kentucky, sold roughly 20 pallets or more than 130,000 brand new N95 mask manufactured by 3M. The highest bidder paid roughly $62,000 or 47 cents per mask. For comparison, the same 3M surgical masks are selling on Amazon for roughly $2.45 per mask.
Somebody will come in and bid on them. They'll buy them at a reduced rate, and then they'll circulate them. They'll put them on eBay, or they'll end up on, Amazon.
Most of the masks the government is trying to get rid of are high-quality surgical or respirators, which still have plenty of shelf life. The 7,200 masks being auctioned off by a VA medical center in South Carolina have an expiration date of July 31st, 2023. The Macrite N95 masks are approved by the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, or NIOSH. Demand for quality masks has only increased as infections with the highly contagious Omicron variant continue to soar. Nationwide, the Department of Veterans Affairs requires at VA healthcare facilities everyone who enters our hospitals, clinics, and vet centers must wear a mask that covers their mouth and nose. Some VA facilities have imposed even stricter rules requiring N95 or KN95 masks. At the Portland VA, homemade or other cloth masks are not allowed.
But this is on the government. I mean, this isn't, a contractor defaulted or didn't supply the goods or services. These are sitting in shrink wrap boxes on pallets that are ready to go and ready to be used. And it's in the middle of a pandemic where the public needs them.
The VA has also put tens of thousands of plastic face shields up for public auction in the past month. Face shields are often used in high-risk situations or medical settings, in addition to a well-fitting quality mask. These critical supplies, paid for with taxpayer dollars, are available for the government to use or distribute. But instead, they're being sold to the highest bidder at a deep discount. Kyle Aboshi, KGW News.
Now that we've covered free masks, let's talk about free tests. COVIDtest.gov went live yesterday, a day early. You can now go there, fill out your name and address info, and the federal government says they'll send you 4 free COVID tests. But some of you hit a snag with this. Ruth wrote, I tried to order COVID tests today. She said I received a notice from USPS stating that this address already ordered tests. We did not. And then she said, should I be concerned? Understandable. Christina had the same experience. She wrote, I went to order my free COVID test from the official website, and it told me they had already been ordered for my address. I did not order previously. Then she added, is this a scam perpetrated by someone to stock up on COVID tests? We love suspicious people. We are all suspicious here in the news at KGW. In times like these, we turn to Pat Doris to vet the truth. So Pat, you talked to both Ruth and Christina, like you heard their stories firsthand. I mean, so, what's the deal? Like, is this a scam and should they be worried?
Well, I don't think so, and I don't think so. But it is unusual, the known glitch with this ordering going on around the country involves condos and apartments where the computer system thinks that the apartment main address has already had its 4 tests, and so it won't send any more to anybody else living there. But each of these women live in their own separate home, and so that's unusual. But I don't think it's a scam because, these things are going to be delivered in 7 to 12 days, so a scammer would have to have a whole string of these and then be checking on the 7th day and the 8th day and the 9th day and hoping that these are left on front porches. It's just a lot of work, and I don't think that's what's going on.
All right, sounds good. We also got, I should say, an email from Caitlin. This one was a little different. She wrote, I placed an order for 4 COVID tests through the government website, received an email several hours later requesting to confirm my address due to USPS address records versus my entry. And then she added, after I confirmed my address, it requested a $3 delivery fee and to enter my credit card information. So, Pat, you talked to Caitlin as well.
Right. Well, this is different. This, I think, is a sophisticated attempt to rip her off because they were only asking for $3 from the credit card, but they shouldn't be asking for any money at all. And she said that once she started to think about it and she started to look back at the email that had been sent to her, she did notice some grammatical errors. And you can see things like, no capitalizations on USPS and different things like that. The grammar's just not quite right, but if you were reading it fast, it does look like the email that is sent after we all have placed our orders. I talked to her about kind of the red flags, and here's what she had to say.
I immediately then texted my coworkers and said, "Did you get an email about having to pay a $3 fee?" And they all confirmed no. So I went back to the original email and kind of looked at it, and I was like, "Oh, well, there's definitely some grammatical errors and various different things within the email that I wouldn't have noticed."
But it's something that if you looked really quickly, like she said, you wouldn't notice. Once she went back, she's like, "Oh, brother." But, very sophisticated. How did they know that she had placed it? And there's a lot of questions there. So just remember, folks, it's free.
Yeah.
Now, I know some of you go crazy when we say that because you're like, well, it was bought with taxpayer money. I know. But today, when you order it, you don't have to put any money out of your pocket to get the test or to have it delivered to your place. Anybody who wants money is trying to rip you off.
All right. Sound advice from Pat Doris, per usual. Pat, thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, our digital team wants us to add, we do have information at KGW.com. If you find yourself in the situation of those first two viewers where it says those tests have already been ordered for your home, there's a phone number you can call. Again, that's at KGW.com. Okay, let's turn to Newburgh now, where the election results are still a little too close to call, but the attempt to recall two members of the school board there appears to be failing by a slim margin, but it's failing nonetheless. Take a look at the results. You can see just how slim this is right now. The no votes at this point, the people who think that School Board Chair Dave Brown and Vice Chair Brian Shannon should not be recalled, they have about 52% of the votes for each candidate. The yes votes, people who think they should be recalled, have about 48% of the total votes. Now, to catch you up, the campaign to recall Brown and Shannon kind of hit the ground sprinting after both men voted to ban Pride and Black Lives Matter flags in Newburgh schools. That ban then broadened out to include all political symbols. That happened back in September. They also voted to fire the district superintendent, seen there, after he refused to enforce the ban. And Brown and Shannon were accused of violating public meetings laws, an accusation they have since denied. Now, these decisions brought out a lot of strong feelings for people in Newburgh and beyond, and we've talked to several people, including kids, who say racism and bigotry is a problem in Newburgh schools. We've heard from parents who fear their kids aren't safe in Newburgh, and we've heard from others who say, no, let's get all of that out of the classroom and just let kids focus on other things. Again, opinions are really strong, and probably because of that, a ton of people voted. The turnout for this special election, 56%. The Yamhill County Elections Clerk weighed in today on just how huge that is.
56% is a really healthy turnout so far, especially for an off January weird election. So it's really high turnout so far for us, but we really don't know what to expect. And our little county has not had a recall in over 12 years. So it's not something that our voters are used to. So there's so many variables. We're just not sure what to expect. When you look at school board elections, those happen in May of odd years. And our turnout for the 2021 school board elections was in the mid-20s. But it was even worse in 2019 when we didn't even reach 20% turnout. So at 56% turnout where we are right now, it is very healthy.
This was also, by the way, the first election in Oregon to test out the state's new postmark voting law. And under that new law, you now have until Election Day to mail in your ballots for this election and moving forward. Those ballots will still count as long as they're postmarked by Election Day. The Yamhill County Elections Clerk told us then that now means they have to wait for a week to give time for ballots mailed as late as yesterday to come in.
I wish I would have some clue or some periscope into the mail stream, because we really have, with the wide date range of a full week You can get a lot of mail from all over the country, and we sent our ballots out to our military and our overseas voters, our snowbirds down in Arizona, and folks going to school on the East Coast. So you really could see ballots coming from all over the country over the next 7 days back to us that we would have no clue are coming until they actually show up.
We will let you know when we have the final results in this Newburgh recall race, both races actually. In the meantime, we want to point out we have reached out to Dave Brown and Brian Shannon for their reactions today. They haven't gotten back to us yet. We also asked the recall organizers for their thoughts. They haven't responded yet either, but here's what they posted on Twitter. They wrote, "We trust our democracy. We trust our career county elections officials. We trust that in the state of Oregon, the will of the voters will be fairly executed, whatever that may be."
It's been 2 years since a Washington teenager died during a party at his fraternity. Police blamed hazing. Now his parents are lobbying for a new law that would include tougher punishments for hazing deaths.
I think it's for us, it's like try to save other young men like him.
When the story continues.
Keep sending in those questions and comments to the story at KGW.com or use the hashtag #TheStoryKGW on Twitter. Washington lawmakers are in session right now, and one of the bills they're considering this time around has to do with hazing. It's called Sam's Law, named after a Washington State University student who died at his fraternity house. And the cause of death was alcohol poisoning. Drew Mickelson from our sister station in Seattle has that story.
From Sam Martinez's Snapchat, it looked like he was having fun at his fraternity's Big Brother party. But the next morning, the 19-year-old was dead.
I remember covering my head with my arms and sinking to the pavement on my knees and wailing until I was hoarse.
Martinez's parents think new state laws could prevent deaths like their son's.
This is something no parent should go through or experience.
Martinez was a freshman pledge at Washington State University's Alpha Tau Omega fraternity in November of 2019. The coroner determined he died from alcohol poisoning. Police blamed hazing. 15 members of the fraternity were charged with misdemeanors. Most received 1 night in jail. Martinez's parents want lawmakers to pass Sam's Law, making serious injuries and deaths linked to hazing punishable by more serious felony charges. And they want all college organizations, not just fraternities, clubs and sports teams too, to publicly disclose all cases of hazing, alcohol or drug violations, and sexual crimes, information they think parents and students should know before joining any group and later regretting it.
It is like having a nightmare over and over again.
I just want to say thank you for sharing your story, and we are so sorry for your loss.
I don't think there's a dry eye in the house.
Frankly, I was really overwhelmed by the support in the hearing today. It was extraordinary.
Sam's parents are optimistic legislators will pass the laws preventing future tragedies.
I think it's for us, it's like try to save other young men like him and families going through this.
Drew Mickelson, King 5 News.
We'll keep you posted on the progress of Sam's Law. Still ahead here on the story, Betty White would have turned 100 this week. So to honor her, we're checking in with local animal shelters, and we're going back into the KGW vault.
My husband used to say that television was my hobby. Animals were my real work.
You're going to want to stick around for this story. We'll have it when the story continues. Media push to honor Betty White by donating $5 in her memory to a favorite animal rescue group. I would be curious to know if local groups saw a Betty White bump in contributions. See, great question. Love the wording. For those who hadn't heard, actress and comedian Betty White died on New Year's Eve at the age of 99. White was both an entertainment icon and a big animal lover. And something else you should know, this past Monday would have been her 100th birthday. So to celebrate that, people on social media challenged each other to donate $5 to humane societies and animal rescue groups in Betty White's name. The Wall Street Journal reporting nationwide groups were flooded with money. Locally, the Oregon Humane Society got $13,449. One Tail at a Time got $6,740. The Humane Society for Southwest Washington, we're told, is still tallying their numbers up. That sounds like a good thing. Big shout out, by the way, to the Colombian who had the same question C did. Also love the dog nose photo. Writing on Monday, the organization received more than 200 donations. They ranged from $1 to $100. People also brought in pet food and other pet essentials. And then they added nearly $2,500 was raised on Facebook alone. That is awesome to hear. Now, the challenge also prompted us to dig into our archives. Back in 1991, it turns out, Betty White visited KGW to talk about her love for animals and a book that she wrote about it. So with that, let's take a trip into the KGW vault.
My husband used to say that television was my hobby. Animals were my real work.
Betty White's an animal lover from way back, so it should come as no surprise that she'd write a book about some four-legged friend and travel from city to city talking about it.
Good morning.
Sullivan, good morning. How are you? Who's this?
This is Nelson.
Betty showed up with longtime friend and entertainer Tom Sullivan and Nelson, his guide dog. Turns out Betty and Tom co-authored this book, The Leading Lady. It's all about their special relationship with Tom's own golden girl, Dinah.
Everything Dinah did was elegant. She would take me to some stairs, and it would be like coming down the flight of stairs with Scarlett O'Hara. You know, all right, we're at the stairs. Now let's elegantly move down the stairs. Nelson gets to the stairs, and it's right on, dig it, yank you over the edge.
Dinah was Tom's eyes for 9 years. They were inseparable until age took its toll. His leading lady developed cataracts. Tom had to face facts. She could still be his pet, but no longer his guide dog. That's when Nelson stepped into Dinah's harness.
Her whole approach to life was, let's end it. And I, with my heart breaking, told my friend about it. And before you had a chance to think, you were saying...
I said, would you like me to try her, Tom? Well, this 11-year-old dog came over, depressed dog came over to my house and had a whole new job. She's got my dogs to take care of, the cat to break in, the housekeeper to shape up. And she just came alive, and I had 4 wonderful years with, again, a working Dinah.
The book was Betty's idea.
So one day I was looking at her and I said, you know, when you think of the places and the things this girl has done, Tom ought to write about that. He ought to write those down. And I ought to write how she's taught me that you can adapt to change and make it better for you.
Dinah lived just long enough for Tom and Betty to tell her story.
She finished the book and she felt real great and was out playing in the yard for our cover picture after the book was all written. And it was some 3 months after that that she finally said, Mom, I'm just tired now. I really am too tired.
It may sound kind of silly to write a book about a dog, but Betty and Tom feel it's the least they could do for the lady after all she'd done for them.
Till we wrote this book, until we wrote Leading Lady, I couldn't love Nelson because Dinah was the present. She was the entity that had
He worked beautifully with him, but there wasn't that emotional commitment.
But being able to put Dinah's life in the pages, to try to touch the country with Dinah's heart, in my case, let Dinah become truly Betty's Dinah.
If he wasn't thirsty, he would just stay down and stay put. And then people are going to say, you're giving that dog water out of a glass, you terrible folk.
Betty makes no bones about her feelings for Nelson. Who knows? When it's his turn to retire, he may move in with Betty. Betty and Tom may write about his life, and we may be doing a sequel to this story.
This week's Hey Help cause, Brown Hope. They help Black, Brown, and Indigenous Portlanders through what they call a healing justice framework. And that work comes in many forms. One form, direct cash assistance to meet basic financial needs. Here's Chief Healing Officer Cameron Witten.
We work our hardest to ensure that we are able to turn donations into real support without putting money towards bureaucracy, without putting money towards checking pay stubs or getting bank statements. So we're unique as being an organization that has a high emphasis on direct cash assistance. And so Black Resilience Fund has given over $2.5 million to Black Portlanders in the last 2 years. And we've done that with very little overhead.
If you would like to donate, hold your phone's camera up to that QR code on your screen. You can also go to kgw.com/heyhelp. That does it for this show. Laurel Porter is standing by with the news at 6:30.